How are we doing? Almost done? So this is really important in your ability to get to your someday goals. It's really the best tool you have for yourself to get there. So know that you don't want to rush through this. In fact, we're still building ours, and we started this in October. We started this in October because, as Brene Brown says, the first time you do it is your SFD. Pardon my language, but it's your shitty first draft. Okay? So I did ours, and then when we looked at it, we said, are those really SMART goals? Can we measure them? Are they time-based? So then we went back and we broke it down and we rewrote them. So know that this is it's not easy to do, one. The other is so important to your future in any of the 7 areas of your life. just imagine if you had a very clear GPS on all 7 areas of your life. Do you think you got a greater chance of hitting your goal? Absolutely, absolutely. Right. And so let me show you what we're, again, this is in progress, so be kind. But that's kind of how ours looks. And we have it based on generating X dollars and X number of transactions. Right now, actually, it's 130 million and 200 transactions. Right. Developing talent is another area, and then increasing efficiency. So our net goal on the top line is actually we want to have a net profit of $1 million. After everything is said and done, we want to have a net profit of $1 million. How do we get there? By working on the sales side, leverage, and efficiency. So these two are really leveraged. Right? When you get to a larger business, you're really looking at how do you take it to the next level, and it's all going to be through other people, through systems, models, and tools. Right? No one succeeds alone. The green area, and this is thanks to, again, another guy that we brought on board a couple of years ago, Conrad, who's our, started as a marketing director, has now become operations to oversee a lot of these things, because the way his mind works, it's just highly strategic. So he changed it on us.
We gave him the GPS, just like you have, and he turned it into this. Wow.
So the colors is green, yellow, red. Green means we're there. Yellow means we're in process. Red means we need a lot of work on it. Right? After that, it's high, medium, and low. And these are priorities. So the first line, and each one of those will be based on its strategy. The first one is a priority. What's the priority relative to the rest of them? Right? The next is, what is the impact to it? And last is, what is the risk? Right? We have to balance out, if we're going to do this, what's the risk of us doing that relative to everything else? Right? And it's pretty involved, as you can see. There's a lot of things that we still are building. To give you an example, under talent, increased shadowing, building team member accountability, objection handling. Those are strategies that we have to execute on. Then we take this and we put this into our 411. And so based on what our GPS looks like, and so what I recommend is you have your GPS and you have your 411 in front of you, in front of your computer all the time. And then you can compare yourself to, am I in alignment with my goals? Right? Am I really in alignment? So does how you spend your time reflect here? And if it's not, should you be spending your time doing it? If that's your goal, if you really are intentful. Any questions on this? I know this is it's overwhelming to me too.
I have a basic question.
Yes.
Since I don't use GPS through the company, where do I find it?
It's Keller,
Should be one of the MyKW.
yeah, MyKW, or the onething.com. Both of them have it.
You just probably put it in Google. Yeah. Or you can always email a coach. They all have a copy.
Yeah, yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's really simple. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take your GPS, then we're going to put it into what we call our 411. Out of all of this, right, you can't possibly get all this done this week, correct? So what are you going to do this week? See, if you just look at this, you get overwhelmed. It's like you get deer in the headlights, right? So then you take this and you say, okay, what do I, out of this, how do I move the needle faster? So what area do I need to focus on this week that I can get done? Once you put your 411 together, you don't look at this week. Until next week when you do your 411. You see what I'm saying? Because if you look at this, it's just overwhelming and you get stuck. You're just going to get stuck. So you take this, and then now we go to our 411. I think that's next. Is that next?
I think so.
Oh, let me declare the results. So here's a couple of questions you want to ask yourself before we go to your 411. How do you know you're going to be successful? How are you going to know you're going to be successful?
How will you know when you're successful? how will you know when you're successful?
Yes.
And you accomplish what you set out to do,
As long as it's a SMART goal,
right?
yeah.
It's measurable.
Yeah, as long as you've got measurements there. The other question is, can you achieve the goal and still fail? And I first heard that, I go, wait a minute, how could I fail if I achieve my goal? Well, if your goal's not in alignment to your someday goals,
No.
right? You still can fail, right? You still can fail. And the last question is, who owns those priorities? So if you're a single agent, you got it, it's all you. If you have a team and other people involved, maybe somebody else owns it. And that was a big aha for me, because I always thought that I owned everything and I had to be responsible for everything, and actually that's not true. If you have good teams and good leadership, they will own things for you, right? And they're gonna take responsibility for it, and they're gonna execute. That's what talent does, right? Right? If they're not willing to own it, then I'm not sure if that's the real talent that you're looking for, right? In your world. But these are people that are future leaders of your organization. You know, there's team members that you bring on, right? Evie, do you have team members? Yeah. So taking a look at your team members, which of those team members do you believe has the ability to own something, right? And if they do and they grab onto it, that's a really good sign. That's a future leader, right?
Ideally, does everyone on your team have their own GPS, no matter what position they hold?
Yes.
Yeah. We haven't got there yet, to be honest with you. We're
But it's
working on
the
it.
goal.
Yes,
Yes.
that's the goal.
I want to add something to number 2. Can you achieve the goal and still fail? Have any of you ever read The Infinite Game? Do you know what The Infinite Game talks about?
Simon Sinek, it's a really good book.
So at Keller Williams, we're really fortunate. I'm just going to have a little Keller Williams commercial here. Gary Keller, because we're a privately owned company, we can play the infinite game. And Gary Keller is in it for the long haul. He's not looking for shareholder. If you're a public company, you have shareholder profits, you have shareholders that you have to answer to, you have to get the bottom line, they have to have a return every year. And because of that, many of the decisions that companies make, they're just trying to get that profit for that year. So that's an example of, can you achieve the goal and still fail? Maybe you hit the goal for this year, but it's gonna hurt your 5-year or your 10-year long-term growth of the company. So at Keller Williams, one of the things that was very eye-opening to me is Gary Keller's in it for the long haul, talking about technology, building the technology platform. So maybe, from his personal profitability, he's not as profitable because he spent, millions of dollars on this technology. So maybe from a profit standpoint for him, he didn't necessarily hit the goal he wanted to hit short term, but in the long term, in an infinite game, it's going to help the company tremendously, and it's going to keep the edge and where the company is going to be in the future, 5-10 years from now, much more profitable than it is right now. And it's for our benefit, it's for each of the agents' benefits. So for me, I look at that as he makes the decisions looking at it from an infinite game versus the finite, I need to please shareholders. And I just feel like that's amazing and awesome that he's always thinking about the agent. He always talks about, I am an agent. On my gravestone, it will say, Gary Keller, he was an agent. He always thinks about himself from that perspective, and what is good for the agent is how he makes his decisions.
We're one of the only companies that does not have to report to NASDAQ, to Wall Street. So the CEOs and all these other companies, they've never sold real estate. Gary has. He still sells real estate in his mind. So that's one of the really unique things about this organization that we all belong to, is that he's making decisions, as Julie says, for the good of our agents, our team, our people, right? For the long haul, right? Putting $2 billion of his own money into technology, billion with a B, into technology, of his own money. He had 165 programmers that he's hired. I think the number 3 guy at Google is there now, and he's helping us run our technology. We had dinner with him, super smart guy, like everything's over my head, but just down to earth too, just really nice people. So, yeah, anyways, make sure you understand who owns your priorities and then who owns each strategy. Right? Because if there's 3 people that own it, nobody owns it. Right? If there's 2 people own it, nobody owns it. Right? You can't share ownership in this. You either do or you don't. Right? It's really, really important how you share that with the people in your world. All right. There's a lot of words here. So now we're going to start with your 411, and this is just instruction. First is you're going to select a goal, personal or professional. You actually have a form here in your handout. That'll be, I think, your last handout form. Want to make a list of the most important things you could accomplish between now and the end of 2020. Then prioritize them. What's the most important things for you to meal? Then you're going to refine your number 1 annual priority, so it's a SMART goal. And identify what you have to do this month to be on track this year. So let's just say this is January already. We're going to plan for January. Okay, we'll put December on the side. We're going to plan for January. What do you have to do by the end of January in order for you to hit your goal for 2020? And then, what do you have to do this week to hit that? Then we're going to time block it in your calendar. We're actually physically going to put it in. Today, does everybody have their cell phone? It's a crazy question in today's world, right? We were talking earlier, like, when I was young, I didn't have a cell phone. There was no such thing. Yeah, we all have a cell phone, and our calendar's all in there, right? Everybody have your calendar and cell phone? That's another crazy question, right? We're going to do that today. Before we leave this session, we're going to do that. Okay? So let's start with identifying what you're going to have to do this month by the end of January to accomplish your goal in 2020. And then what do I have to do this week? This week to accomplish what I want to get done this month. Okay? We'll give it 10 minutes, 15 minutes maybe. Okay, thanks. How much you think?